Peace, family. Welcome to another episode of Family Business, Our Wealth, Our Health, Our Business. Today, I'm joined with one of the key figure in the community. He has ties that stretches from RBG down to Florida, up north, in Atlanta, and even connections in the motherland, across from Africa.
Yes,
One of the biggest things about making connections, making relationships within our community and finding value in each other. So I bring a valuable brother to the community. How you doing? What's going on?
Brother. Good to see you.
What's going on?
We finally had to pull this thing together. We've been trying to pull this thing off.
We have.
Yeah, and I didn't even mention while we were talking earlier the fact of having had the opportunity to meet President Mnangagwa there in New York, and I'll be returning October the 25th there for Sanctions Day. The United States, of course, has sanctions on Zimbabwe, as well as we're calling the Cuban and Venezuelan comrades, and trying to see if we can get some connection with the North Korean comrades and present a united front against those sanctions that the United States has on these countries that starve them out of their the basic goods they need for their people to survive.
No doubt. So this platform, I'm going to keep it real conversational. We have we're like-minded, so I know we'll fall on the same topics. But we're going to jump from different places surrounding one premise, and the premise obviously is nationhood building for our brothers and sisters in our community. So I wanted to touch on one of the things you just said. For those that don't know, can you talk a little bit more about Sanctions Day, and then also talk about this Pan-African nation building mission that is out there and alive. For some people who don't know or don't recognize, it's not going to be something that you see publicized on entertainment, news, TMZ, things like that. But if you could talk about that movement a little bit, that'd be big.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Sanctions Day, particularly October 25th, that is a day that was established by the trilateral organizations that at the point that had a third front back in the 60s, where they had conferences, the Bandung Conference and other conferences, where they established dates where they would have anti-imperialist events. And so that was established for the fight against sanctions. And when you understand the way the United States government actually works, you look at something like the Senate Armed Services Committee, right? And when you see this committee and it convenes, you check them out on C-SPAN, you know what I mean? You check out when the Senate Armed Services Committee meets, right? And listen to what they say.
What are they actually talking about?
I'm talking about, not only do we want the surveillance on the government there in the airports and all the institutions out of the embassy there that we have, but we also, these key figures in that government, we want to freeze their bank accounts in this nation and this nation.
Really?
Yeah, so it's like when you deal with it, like we were there earlier this month with the last month actually, with the Zimbabweans there at the UN General Assembly, and that was the thing that they were talking about. And sanctions not only is about the economic prosperity of the nation, but it also has to do with the age-old colonial structures that are still operating. Like one of the big things was the comrades were talking about the fact of trying to retrieve Mama Nahanda Abiodun's Mama Nahanda from Zimbabwe, her actual head. She was beheaded, and the British still have the head.
Are you serious?
In their nation.
That just gives you a little insight, with the Queen,
the barbarism,
just dying. Everybody wants to throw all these. You understand the type of genocide, oppression, murder that was caused by Great Britain and their colonial excerpts, their colonial ambitions.
Kenya, Zimbabwe, South Africa.
We don't even, because
Ghana.
And here's the thing, right? A lot of people, when I believe it was the Berlin Conference, when they started dividing up Africa and deciding what European country was going to. This is the type of history that you're never being exposed to as a black person to understand your presence here in the United States. And one of the big things that you're mentioning, you're talking about, and I know that there's a lot of people that's going to be able to grasp it. And some people, it may go over their heads, but it's really being able to put our identity on a global scale.
Right.
Being able to have that global recognition.
Yeah.
Because that's when
you just basically break it down to the nuts and bolts of humanity.
Right.
That says that each and every race has a historical, geographical origin location. Right? Mm-hmm. And the original origin location of all people is Africa. So being born as an African, that not only gives you the double, it's like not only are you born into humanity, but you're born into the original humanity. Right. And so the concept of understanding politically and culturally who you are as an African person, you should be the proudest person that there is on the planet. Right? And that's because of understanding that each and every aspect, all the richness of Africa that is being exploited, all of the gold and diamonds and oil and silver and coltan and copper
is actually you. That's your inheritance.
Not only are the minerals that found in that soil found in your body, but it was your labor. The way that your body manifested the energy to be able to survive things other races couldn't survive. Right. And to be able to actually have the knowledge within yourself. I think one of the greatest misconceptions is that, like, the white man had the science and then he used us as workers. No. We had the science. It was like the United States with Germany. It's like we took the whole scientists and the engineers and the whole thing and then boom, put it over here and made it for us. Right? We saw what they had. We wanted too. You know what I mean?
So what actually happened? Tell them what actually happened.
So it's like they actually knew. They said, what's them people over there, man? Them people over there, man, they got some good ass farms. They can grow, man. You tasted that corn they got over there?
Right.
Yeah, I tasted that. You know what? It'll be good if we can grow all that corn and the peanuts and all that stuff back over there in the New World where we was at. Right. Like, but we can't just get anybody. You got to get the one who knows, who has the knowledge. Right. That's gonna take the seed and know what time of the year to germinate it and how to water it and how to make it survive. It was a scientific genocide that occurred more so than a cultural genocide that occurred, because you have to compare it in the way in ancient cultures the way they did. They didn't just go after people just because they wanted people. They went after the ones that had the knowledge. And we were talking about Mama Marimba's book.
Yorugu, that's one of my favorite books.
And when you study the mind frame, there was a couple of things. I mean, because look at the hell and torture we've been put through, but we still ain't became that. Right?
We're still compassionate.
So it like when you really get down into it, and Baba Bakessa Mazimoyo and them covered this with me way 20 years ago. Like understanding the development of the Cro-Magnon man, and seeing how, then you got to go into the Diop stuff for that, worm glaciation, 20,000 years, separation, that creation. But it's like, when you look at culturally what developed, there was a choice made at a point in history among them, because look at the Russians, right? No slave ships. Right. No, white as can be.
It's funny, as like just looking at, I never really look at white people and Russians the same. Not for me. I look at them like, oh no, they Russian. They Russian.
Those are Slavic people. They're one of the European tribes. But they chose at a certain time in their development, number one, their language. Alexander Pushkin gave them that language. That's a
black Russian poet.
It's nothing but hieroglyphics. He gave them the hieroglyphics. And so that programs your mind a certain way. And then, of course, when you study Russian history too, not to get too deep into it, but study the reason why Germany and Russia hate each other so much. They are the examples of the two poles of the Cro-Magnon man. Right? There's the German, the Germanics, and they just look at, because Dr. Clark said that you want to know your people, right? Study your enemy. If you want to know yourself, study why he wanted to do what he did to you. Right? And so you understand him and how his tribes are made up, In England, you have the Anglo-Saxons and Jutes, right? Mm-hmm. And then in France, you got the Franks and the Burgundians, and in Spain, you got the Visigoths and the Vandals. That's why we started calling them Vandals. That's where vandalism come from, because they kept raiding from Spain over there in Africa. Right? In Holland, you got the Huguenots. Then you got the Germanic tribe, the heart of the white people, the Gaul, right? These are the tribal names of those different distinctions of groups of European tribes. Then you have the Slavs over here, right?
Who were in direct opposition to them.
But the development, it's like they came really, the dudes is some Vikings.
Right. And that's Slavic, I've always seen.
Yeah, they are. I'm talking about, look, man, tell you had to study their history. It was a Viking dude way back then. We're talking about Ericsson and them. One of them cats. Vladimir, he had one of them crazy names, Roddick.
Ragnar.
Roddick. One of them names like that, right? They asked him to come and help organize their society. They asked the Viking, they was like, look, these Germans, I don't like them, they like to eat people, and all this stuff right here. We ain't with that, right? Because when you look at the majority of them, for some reason, on that side of the Ural Mountains, because when you study Europe geographically, you got to understand, how was one landmass made into two continents, right? Because they split it right at the Ural Mountains. So on the west side of the Ural Mountains is Europe, on the east side is Asia, right? So, but the Rus developed in Kiev. That's why the fight in Ukraine is like, come on, man, that's them people land. It's like us fighting like that. If you could trace your history to the being born in that city where your original foundation of, then that's your homeland. Right. It don't matter because the United States made up NATO and split all the countries up and all that. You know what I'm saying? It's just like saying, oh, well, Djibouti is, that's European land. They were there. Ain't nobody was there. They claimed it. Now it's theirs. They run the government and all that.
No. Know the whole story behind Russia and Ukraine and everything like that. And if you let the media spin it, they'll tell you. NATO keep pushing them nuclear weapons closer to that man border, and he just not fit go for that. Yo, that's what the last thing I heard was that it's because Ukraine, they was gonna have a base in Ukraine. Russia's not about to let United States set up no type of base in Ukraine.
If these people are so humane, bro, in fighting a war. I've never seen it. The most incredible thing about the Ukraine war to me is I'm like, Poker, man, let go the ground. Stop playing. Why you Russia bombs Kiev today, 14 died. Right. Will you compare these numbers to Iraq, please?
Somalia?
Yeah, compare them to Iraq and the United States. One bombing run. Right. 14 people? No. And when you do the numbers, man, look, the civilians, they ain't even got into, and they extrapolating them numbers. They ain't even got 5,000 dead. They've been fighting going on a year.
No. I want to bring this back because you're making some good points.
And we got to get back to the pandemic too.
Well, I mean, I'm a connected dots on this because I'm looking at it because we are influenced by so many different things that are told to us that we don't really know the background context. We're at the disposal to what we see in the media, news, entertainment. But what I do want to ask is, how can we look at the global climate and use it to understand what we need to do as a people? Because there's a couple different things that have popped into my head over the last year or so, just learning, living and learning. But there are different things, there are different areas that we have to show up in. And if you look at the global landscape, how it's moving and how things are transitioning ever since COVID, how the economic shifts are going on and political shifts are going on, there's a time for action right now. There's a time where we can make a real influence and impact on that global scale. So kind of what do you see that can be done, should be done, and where do you think it's kind of moving to?
Well, I mean, when you see these white supremacists, these oath takers, first of all, storming the Capitol, beating the hell out of the police, going there and taking selfies on top of the congressional members' desks with their feet up and stuff, right? Then, when they invade Trump's home, the FBI, these white supremacists are threatening the FBI, actually. So if they have the nerve to threaten the FBI, what do you think they think about us?
Right.
That's just going to be, prep. So that's politically, that's where we are. I mean, the fact that they invaded that capital and that they're threatening the FBI right now is a fact. So that's the political climate that we're living in the United States. It's going beyond just plain old white supremacy to where, it's all the white people against the black people. No, there's some white people over here that's already against black people. Then there's some more white people over here who are against everybody.
Yeah, there's a false sense of security. It's just like we fall under.
But you got 200 mass shootings, and we don't even know who them people is that's in the mass shootings because there's too many of them. It's too much to research. You'll have to do it every day to find out who it is.
They Manchurian candidates. They agents.
Of course, I mean these people are of course put into place, but just like in Buffalo, just like in South Carolina, just like our people are paying the price. You know what I mean for that, and so. When you look at globally, what's happening, it's the same thing, man. We have to have a power base. Our only power base is Africa. There's some other time countries over there. And some revolutionary nations over there. You find those revolutionary nations, make connections with them, see what's going on that scale, and then come a little bit closer home. You see who's rocking what kind of way on this side. You see Cuba down there, see Venezuela. The boys in Nicaragua rocking too. You know what I'm saying? Down there, they got rid of my boy Morales in Ecuador. You know what I'm saying? Evo Morales.
Last time I heard, it was Venezuela. They were getting attacked. They was cutting off the electricity.
But see, the thing about them is they understand something that we need to understand, and that's the fact that when the United States decides to, when they get somebody inside their army, or even somebody close in their security services, to turn the switch, you need them boys on the street to have your back.
I feel you.
That's how we remain in power.
That's how real army based, honestly, and I've always felt like that. One of the reasons why America has the largest prison population in the world is because they had to get the dominant masculine black men off, because if you want to take over any group of people, you have to subdue their dominant males. You know what I mean? You have to subdue their warriors. But now keeping on that same kind of type time, bringing it to the nation building aspect and what is needed to be put together. You said the connections over there, and that's one of the biggest things. In terms of getting the message out that there are people out here that are already making those connections. What type of campaign would you like to see kind of like here on the home front?
Well, when you're doing this type of work, we've gotten so used to, I think, in the advent of social media, of making exclamatory statements instead of the quiet, secure organizing. Right. Text on WhatsApp, meet me at the park.
Handshake, eye contact only.
See, so we've gotten spoiled and not putting in that leg work. Right. Like you have to, when you bring together a secure organization that's fighting in an environment against an imperialist on the level of the United States government. I mean, we've seen what they did with COINTELPRO. You think they stopped? Right. You know what I mean? I mean, I know, because it's like, I had a case from the FBI. You know what I'm saying? 2007, they came after me. You know what I'm saying? With guns. They're like, you joined the new Black Panther Party again, and let us know what's going on, and we'll forget about this little gun over here. Really? Yeah. Like, y'all really think this shit for real?
Nah, but that's to the length of what they'll go. You know what I mean? To the length of what they'll go to kind of like. I mean, it's even quoted that Hoover, what he was saying is one of the biggest important initiatives is to how did he phrase it?
Stop the rise of a black Messiah.
Of a black Messiah. Stop the rise of a black Messiah.
But see, the Messiah. I mean, he's so stupid. Because the Messiah complex, it's not one person.
It's not. We could be all day talking about how much white people think they know and don't.
Right. But so to continue to answer your question, the college campuses, African center organizations, black events. I liked it how New Era kind of ran that campaign. Right. When they came out, hood to hood. Right. You know what I mean? And I mean, I don't kind of hear much from them as much these days, but I do remember that when G Netta and Judge D, now Jaleel Omawale, were running it, when I listened to them and their platform, I was like, oh, okay, that's it. The elders and then the youth. And then that's their connection. It's the warriors. And they got it going on. And then it was the little, there was the gang element of it, because when coming from up north, particularly talking about Detroit and Chicago, you know what I mean? Then there's that element. So I was like, that right there could be something rocking right there. You know what I mean?
That unapologetic stance.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we don't really see that too much anymore. And that's one of the things, that unapologetic stance. And a lot of people have I wouldn't say that they make up excuses, but if you want to achieve justice, if you want to change something, breaking the law is going to be necessary. And I think that there's a group of people that are afraid to go against the grain. Yeah. So they go along with it. But there's a group of, new era.
I remember what Matulu said. Matulu said, he said, well, some people make mistakes and some people make choices. And I ain't mad about my choices. You know what I mean? Yeah. I've been listening to Matulu here lately. But it became necessary just on the Pan-Africanist front, right? Mm-hmm. So we bring it back home, right? No doubt. But then the circle goes all the way back around, right? Because I had the blessing and just to go back to the hotel room by myself and look at myself in the mirror and say, you a bad boy. Bad, right? Bad. Because nobody else knew, even the Black Panther comrades who were there, that Matula was in prison for supporting the Zimbabwe government. One of his charges was acting as a foreign agent.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, they're gonna put any charge that they want to, but how did that come about? And was that why he left?
That is one of the charges he's indicted for. I mean, them cats, him and Sekou, man, these cats was all over Africa. They training people. Look, see, the reason why the Black Panther Party, kind of them guys, particularly like Sekou and Matulu and Daruba, some of them guys who were like up there on the international aspect of the party, Eldridge Cleaver, all them guys, like Eldridge just lost his mind, right? Because it's like, when you know you can win the war, you just need the people to come and volunteer to do it. It drives you crazy. You see the operational order, just like today, right? I'm over here and I'm with the Zimbabweans, we kicking it in the room and you hear the little, I'm like, what is that little buzzing sound? Oh, that is the anti-surveillance. They got a thing like, the Havana syndrome. You ever heard of that? Nah. Like, some kind of way the United States diplomats' ears just started ringing and they went crazy. They wouldn't stop ringing while they were in Havana. They call it the Havana syndrome, right? Yeah. So I'm hearing this sound, I'm like, what is that? The Havana syndrome is like, nah, that's how we block out them from,
from listening.
Right. But we're talking and, certain aspects of it I can say. It's the simple fact that today with this level of technology, I mean, come on, man. You can have a drone right now flying over the police department with something with it to get down with it. Right now, you put enough time and money into it, you could be at the computer screen to hell with that Fortnite and all that. Right? I mean, I'm saying that. I'm not saying we're going to do that, but I'm saying you have the opportunity. Right. With the advent of the level of technology that we have, that we're really serious about doing something. You ain't even got it. It's like you almost ain't got a dang on get all them people in your business and do all that no more.
Right, it can be done on a very small scale and make a bigger impact. And then honestly, it's gonna come to that because I've always been a believer where it's like you're not gonna get everybody. Right. You know what I mean? Right. And honestly, the people that you don't even want to get everybody. Right. Most people's mindset ain't even built for this in the first place. So less is more. You know what I mean? It's less is more. Mm-hmm. The biggest thing for me was just like setting the perimeters are exactly what the core values are and setting the core objectives are. And then when you build it, people will come. People will gravitate towards it. And I think that's where we kind of agree about this whole social media thing. It is a cesspool of superficiality, right. But at the same time, it can be utilized to put up a beacon if we utilize it correctly. Because
it gotta be something that you use after you have your strength. It can't be something you use to get your strength.
No. You're right. I get exactly what you're saying. And we see that a lot of times. Like people get piped up because of Instagram. But what were you doing before Instagram? Because it's still just a channel.
Right.
It's still just a medium. You know
and what are you doing at all? I mean, okay, if you broadcast the organization meeting, which you don't see, right? You don't see on there what you might see a speech that has some good
talking points
in it and stuff like that, but you don't see like organizing 101. And basically because everything's been written, you have to find it. I often advise people on a certain number of books, particularly when you're studying war. Kwame Nkrumah's Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare.
Okay.
So that's the continental version. Then over here, Jalil Mutakim's We Are Our Own Liberators.
Okay, I read that.
And then some other compendiary ones. Like, I mean, come on, man. If you an Iraqi dude and you a young dude and you want to be a general in the army, you want to be that man one day, right? What would you read?
Right.
You gonna read about Saddam and all the boys.
That putting in work.
We should read every Black Panther, any of them wrote, and what their experiences were, right? Number one. Then we can step back to but the theories, right? So, because you were saying like just setting the foundation. Revolutionary War, African Revolutionary War, is set on a standard set of principles that everybody understands that are socialists. And the reason why it works, and it's so terrible that us in the United States really don't get a chance to be a part of a socialist organization. You know what I mean?
We get beat upside the head with capitalism.
Yeah, because you never those principles. The Cubans just stuck in it, just like it's just like give away all this shit, man. You know what I mean?
Right.
Come on. What else you need? You got your knife, you got your gun. Come on. But there's ways of organizing that it's not that pull yourself up by your bootstrap stuff. It's organizing based on unity. And so there's certain tried and true techniques that are used that everybody does, but you will see when you go into them, they're difficult to maintain. Stuff like combat liberalism, right? Mao Zedong, 1937. On contradiction. The contradictions, even among the masses of African-centered people in the United States, are vast. The capitalism clouds everything. Pure self-serviceness is like gone, And of course, we gotta feed ourselves and eat and, take care of our children and stuff, but
this environment that we live in is such a demand and it's such it
keeps
you at a
dog.
And the worst part about it is, because not only dog eat dog, but this is what I've noticed, it makes you insecure. It makes you insecure about your identity. One of the things I know for our tradition, our culture, a lot of our pride, a lot of our confidence came from our community. You're better, stronger with your people. You're stronger because you know who you are, you know your heritage, you know your tradition.
Right.
In today's environment, we don't have any type of commonality that stretches across culture to give us that cultural identity, especially for Black people. We don't have it in the United States because we have what they call this whole melting pot. They have culture over here, this holiday over here. There's no underlying thing that we could hold on to. And for Black people, there's nothing that we can sit there and unify around to say that, this is our identity, this is us. And a lot of times, like for me, I see a lot of different nationalities. Like I was living in New York for a while, so you go up there, you got Chinatown, you got Little Italy, you got Little Haiti, you got all of these different cultures. And they interact with everyone and everything, but once you go back to your side of the block, once you go back to your community, your roots are expressed. Your heritage, your traditions are expressed there. And so you hold on to that no matter where you go. For us, there's so much that is interwoven with American history, and this is the history I want to reflect, and I don't want to think about this here. There's nothing that's real concrete for us. And that, I believe, that's one of the things that's holding us back for organizing. Because not only do we not have a common objective, because there's some Black people who want the table, and then there's some Black people that want a good seat at the table.
Right.
But we have to not only get on the same page of what our objective is, but we also got to get on the same page of what our origin is, because we're the only and this is the thing with the whole origin. Whether you're Black, Indigenous, Native American, things like spiritually, this ain't your home. Cognitively, this ain't your environment, this ain't your culture.
Right.
So you you may not say, okay, you say you're African, I say I'm Indigenous, you say Indigenous.
Right.
Yeah. We know that this ain't it. And that commonality alone should be enough for us to come together, sit at the table, and put a plan together that's going to serve all of our interests.
But think about how fast that anti-African ideology is growing now.
Yeah.
Why?
Right.
Out fear.
Well, I'll tell you
It's
why.
countercultural, right?
Yeah.
It's countercultural. It goes against the premise of Africa being the home of African people. It's fear. It's fear that's inbred in their DNA, right? And consciousness against it ain't even something that come from being in the family of revolutionaries, because a lot of times you see they don't even follow the shit, right? It's a blessing from the ancestors. You, as that soul, pick this time to come back. If you have that consciousness of mind and thought, that's why it's so rare.
Right. Because you've been chosen.
Because you got to have an accumulation of experiencing your soul over enough times of lifetimes to even be able to approach the realm of cerebral consciousness to understand the idea of a true, unified, liberated African people. Right. Because that's been stripped, it's been tortured out, and it's been, you know what I'm saying, and everything around you right now, subliminally in every single way, is counter to that thought of you being that liberated African.
I'm glad you said it like that too, because that's something that's kind of been, I mean, I wouldn't say it's been bothering me, but it's something that happens because we see people, and we want them to understand certain things, and even the people we care about, because that's probably even worse. We want them to understand something. It's like, you don't understand this. Like, how could you not understand this?
Blah, blah, blah.
And then exactly. And then I'm like, hold on. I go in there and I start trying to break it down. I bring out the whiteboard with the different colored markers. I start drawing pie graphs. I start doing web diagram. And then it's like,
and what time power come on?
Yeah, well, okay.
All right. The closer you gonna get to some
country,
we're gonna watch some black characters on TV, and they gonna be with some bullshit themselves, but at least they black. We watching them, right? And
you know, and that's always been, and I think that's always gonna be a struggle for people like us, because we know what the potential is. We know what is there that is waiting for us, our inheritance, versus what people have settled for. See, as a culture, I don't really like throwing that word around, but as a culture, I say we've accepted some of the different pleasantries that American culture gives us. Right. You know what I mean? And they're all right with that. Oh, well, we fought the vote, so we're here now voting. Yeah. Right? That's not what the fight was for, but okay. Mm-hmm. Then they'll be like, okay, well, I could get jobs, I could make money, I could get credit, I could do all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool. So you have now associated your ability to make money with your ability to be a free, sovereign individual. But here's the thing, though. For a lot of people, they don't even know what the word sovereign means, let alone how to spell it. Right. So if your idea of being free is able to buy your drugs and buy your entertainment and buy your sexuality, your preference, whatever, if that, then you're free. You're stay free on that side, because you're not the same. And then
here's what I say to them, because me and Tip was in the feds together, right? And I used to tell him, we was in the halfway house actually. Right? And I used to tell him, I was like, bro, look, you think that nobody didn't make a decision up top to put them chains on instead of twerk that rifle? Think about it. You think you sold more albums than Pop? Yeah. See, our people, we don't want to look at the reality of what it is that we're really faced with, because it's pure fear. If we really was forced to just tie them up in a chair, right, and play the Black Holocaust over and over, and Goodbye Uncle Tom, and all, and just every kind of torture, show them the torture, make them watch it.
Right, I get you.
Make them watch the interferon wars. Let them see what they do to your children. Right? I had some training back in the early 2000s with these groups. It was over in English Avenue, right over there, because I was working in that area. I was working the Bluff, right? And I ran into this white woman that was helping this girl into this shelter that we knew it was it was an AIDS shelter, actually. Women and children with AIDS, right on English Avenue. English Avenue Resource Center. It was the shelter connected to it, right? And we worked at the Resource Center doing tutoring for children after school and all of this. So I seen the lady, I was like, everything all right? Because the sister, she was really, really upset, right? And so she gave me her card, and the organization was called Out of the Darkness, right? And it was just a group of brothers, a group of black women and white women who would actually like go to Fulton Industrial Boulevard and like grab them and just like take them with them, right? Really? These girls was raw, right? So I was like, oh man, y'all fighting sex slave traffic, right? I'm in the new Black Panther Party at that time, right? So I'm like, I can't not do this, right? So I go in there and it's a whole bunch of, you got to go through a bunch of stuff because it's all women, right? And then when you understand the culture and the environment and what happened, because these girls done got attacked by pimps trying to get in there and get the women back and all this crazy stuff. So any guy coming around is like, they see me with the uniform thing and all that, but that don't mean nothing. I could be using that to, do anything. You could just see this extreme paranoia. But they have this set of training videos they have you watch, bro.
And it's for you, for the one
just to get prepared and try to help them.
Right.
They want you to see what's going on. Right. And just like, I got up, walked out a couple times. I came back, but it's like the things that you see, we would not be, our consciousness is not ready to understand. Right. As an African people, our spirit is so full of love that if we were forced to have to watch it, it would just drive us crazy. We'd probably just drop dead on the spot.
No, you're right.
Because you couldn't contain that thought of what we are actually up under.
We don't naturally operate on that level. And one of the things when we draw the division, because a lot of people say, okay, we're all the same, but we're not.
Right.
One of the things that makes us different is the origin of our people. So Europeans came from a much harsher environment.
Right.
They came from a much scarce environment. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There wasn't much vegetation. And I even heard stories about the origin of the woman menstrual cycle came from them having to use it to time certain things. But I don't know enough information about it to go into it. But I will say, the Europeans came from a harsher environment. The landscape was harsher. The terrain was harsher. The weather was harsher. So it became a survival mentality. Now, if you think about that over centuries and centuries of development versus people that came from the motherland, the African that were born in the sun, warm all year round, fruit all year round, vegetation all year round, comfortable.
It's right there.
You would develop more of a compassionate nature. And so when we have these things clash, one of the things that you brought up, and I think is real big, is I don't think we could even fathom the evil that they're capable of, because we wouldn't even believe someone would be capable of doing that. You know what I'm saying? And one of the biggest things that I learned about our heritage and history is when we would have war, when we would fight, when empires would fight within Africa, there was still a morality. There was still a sense of a spiritual morality. You still
work your way out of that servitude.
And then it wasn't that
you could even become the king. Some of you became the king of the village.
You could still work. You could still practice a lot of your things. A lot of it was just, okay, we control this land now. Not that we were going to cut you off from your resources or starve you out and make sure your family didn't eat. No. Okay, this is our resources. We're going to share with you your culture, and we're going to adapt.
That's indentured servitude. What we experienced here was chattel slavery.
Chattel slavery, yes. And even and that's the thing. Like, even when it wasn't like, if you win a war, you just simply lost the war. It wasn't always, and I'm not saying it wasn't, but it wasn't always a complete takeover of a people.
And a lot of times it wasn't even no bloodshed. It's just like, you already see how many there is and how they move and what they take. These folks like, all right, bro, you got that, man. I just wanted to show you what it was. You over there talking that shit, and now You made me have to bring everybody out here. Like, I understand now. You got that. You know what I mean?
And they were still a shit.
The majority of the time, that's what occurred. And
concept of Pan-Africanism, just like we were saying about the sovereignty bit, it's like, we have to learn that if we're going to be in this movie Hollywood realm or whatever, right, that we're going to have to really start documenting our successes, because even with the power of the movie Black Panther, the fact that it's still based upon fantasy doesn't make it as great as if it was a movie on Santiwa or the Cubans and the Angolans defeating the South Africans in Angola. You know what I mean? Make something about
defeated the British, even though the British had guns.
Right.
That's a heroic story, right?
The coconut revolution out there. The boy made bombs with coconuts and threw it at them and killed them. Right? There's just so many of these successful stories that we could look up and that we could document, right? But because of, like you said, the frame of mind is not directed towards even wanting to put the effort to even understand that. Right. And the talent and the resources going towards bullshit.
Building up their
gaming and I be messing with, but it's like our youth, right, are under the greatest mental assault you can imagine, right? They can't get away from it, right? It's just like you got to really just take a weekend and go take them on the pond and just go fishing. You know what I mean? Leave the damn phone in the car, right? To get them to unplug them.
It's coming from everywhere.
You know, and you have to, but the fact that they keep their face so much of time on that screen and idea after idea after idea. First of all, because you're not concentrating on one thing like a book that the same concept is going through all your mind, keeps jumping and make it where you can't concentrate. Right. So then you can't study. If you can't make your mind be still, then you can't really study.
But you know,
and then they can't read, they can't do handwriting, right? It's like there's a dumbing down that's occurring across the board that we have to address, and that if we do not address, then we're going to have a generation of children that if you took away their technological devices, they wouldn't even know how to sit down and add up numbers to be able to even go to the store and buy some food.
And that's their agenda, because they want to produce robots. They want to produce slaves that'll just do, repetitive motions over and over. You know what I mean? One of the biggest things, and I think we're gonna wrap it up out of here, but I do want you to touch on this before, is kind of like, what do you see for the future of the movement? Where do you see kind of like what do we have to initiate kind of in the near future?
Well, we need solidarity, right? And we naming these organizations, and I actually work as the chair of the Atlanta Pan-African Coalition, WADU, ASCAC, UNIA, All African People's Revolutionary Party, Friends of the Congo, ERIC, COSA. These organizations have worked together for 10 years. And so when, just like now, we have to deal with something in Haiti, COSA, which my partner Kweku is the external relations director there out of the United States. We can, boom, Kweku, what's up, what you need? Get your ticket, boom, all right? So that kind of solidarity, and then just pure and simple organization. You know what I mean? Get out of the mode of wanting to have your voice heard openly, and understand if you're truly fighting white supremacy, they don't need to hear you.
I hear that.
But Dr. Clark told us is our egos as African people are so starved because nobody paid attention to us in history. In our lives growing up, we didn't get the credit we wanted. We didn't get the recognition we needed. We didn't get the attention from our family members that we wanted. And so now we have this platform, and we're just going to express and give everything in our thoughts and minds and being to it, and expose our total selves. For those who are, there's a reason why it's 200,000, 300,000 black women missing, right? Because these people know how to look up your HTTPs and backtrace, and they'll be waiting outside your joint. That's how these dudes do it.
right? That's what
Really?
that's something I learned in that organization I was telling you about way back then.
With the IP address and everything, looking them up. Technology.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Think about it. When you take a picture and it downloads to your phone, when you go back to it in Google Photos, it'll say where you took that picture at.
Yep. All of that. Yeah. There's a lot of
So
information
you got to understand. So boom, you just did a live video. Boom, they go into that. Boom, take, copy and paste the URL, put it in there. Search engine that's dark web. Right?
That dark web.
And then right to you.
Listen, I don't know what the ins and outs, but I know there's a lot of things you can do nowadays.
But just being vigilant, just understanding that you're not safe out there, African people, and at any moment you could become the victim of one of these people homoerotic fantasies.
So man, I ain't gonna go there. Nah, but you know what? That's a good point. I think we gotta know the environment that we're in. You gotta know the game that's being played, and you gotta know the environment that we're in.
Yeah, those are two things. In the community, organize with those organizations. I don't care if it's the church and when they go feed some homeless people or something, just anything, right? Well, that's all you can muster up. Whatever you got, we need it all. If it ain't for you to go all the way out here screaming Black Power, you know what I mean? Then get some money when you see the little children on the corner trying to start a little football league, right? Just whatever it is that we can do, and outside that, like I said, the personal security. You know what I mean? Of course, I know you can appreciate that, but it's like just keep your head on the swivel. Like I always say at the end of my radio show, WRG. African family, stay vigilant. Stay vigilant.
We're here on Family Business. I want to thank you again for coming through.
Yes, sir.
Thutmose.
Yes, sir.
Valuable brother to the community.
Appreciate you, brother. Keep doing the good work.
No doubt, we will. So we're here, signing off, man. Stay blessed, stay focused. This is Family Business. Our wealth, our
stay
health,
vigilant.
our business.